Hi, in this Lightboard session, we're going to talk about the DataWeave map function. Now, the map function takes in a collection or an array and runs it through some sort of transformation to produce another array. So if we look at the map function signature, we would have some sort of collection or array, whatever you want to think of it, and runs it through some sort of transformation. So when I use the term lambda, I mean it's a function that will not have a name. That's all this is about. Now, the map function, when we're looking at the event, we'll pick where the collection is coming from. So quite often you may find that you've got the collection sitting in payload. So a very common form of this would be to have, in terms of, let me get my colors right, payload, and then we would have map, and then we have to sort out what our structure is going to be. Now, the way to think about this is that this is applying to each individual element of the array. So you don't think about it being an array, think about it being individual elements. So each one by one, will be run through this lambda function. So if we wanted to create a new structure, we might think about doing something like squiggly brackets, because squiggly brackets are going to make a structure. So if I left this as is, it will take the number of records that there are in payload and create an empty structure for each of them. So this would take an array that was 10 into 10 empty structures. If I was taking in, say, an array that had a structure that had first name and last name, I could grab those out of that structure and start to create a new structure here. So I would be doing something like my keys, which might be, so I think about my first name, last name. So these are the keys, and then I need to get to the values. Now, if I don't give a little bit more syntax here, I'm going to have to use the $ and the $$ to get to the first and the second input into this function. Now, this requires looking at the documentation to know what those are, but for our purposes, I can let you in on the secret that $ is going to point to the individual record, and $$ is an index. So if I wanted to get to each individual element, I could use the $, and then I can use the dot to get inside that. So if it was coming in with fields of f name and l name, then I could go dot f name, and then that will grab it out of whatever's in that value. And same with the last name. Again, I want to point to the individual element, use the dot to select one of the fields, and then I could do l name. Okay, now there is a longer syntax of this that may make more sense to you, where you can give each of those a name. All right, so in terms of that structure, so let's do the equivalent. So these will be exactly the same. So I have my input array, so it's going to be payload, my function name, and then instead of jumping straight into the lambda, we've got to give those inputs a name. So we're going to use a bit of syntax here, where we get to give those, instead of using $ and $, I could say this is the element, and then index. So other than that, we've then got to just point to what we're going to be doing. And then we've got our squiggly brackets again, because we want the same structure. So to keep it exactly the same as this one, we're going to do first name and last name. Now, if we use $, it's not defined because that's what I'm supposed to use instead. So I would use element dot, and then whatever name I had there, f name, and element dot l name. Okay, and those two are exactly the same code. This one has different names, whereas this one doesn't give them a name. But the end result is still the same. You would be taking in an array of a structure with f name and l name, massaging it through a transformation lambda, which is here, which says create a structure with these keys using these values. And that explains how the map function works.